Om Sang Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. On page 277, we're going to tell the story of Shantanu's reunion with Devavrat. Ever since Ganga took her son Devavrat and left Shantanu, the king remained very sad. After performing his duties as the king, every afternoon he would drive down to the banks of the Ganga in his chariot, where he would sit in contemplation of his lost beloved, longing for just one sight of her. Every evening, well after dark, he would return to his palace, and in the despondency of his loneliness, he would sit throughout the night, lost in his suffering and alone. In this way, a number of years passed. The king had no joy in his life. He did not celebrate any of the festivals or perform any pujas or worship. He only sat alone in his quarters. The citizens, like their king, had no joy and nothing to look forward to. Everyone seemed to be merely tolerating life and waiting for something to change. One day, Shantanu went down to the bank of the Ganga as usual. He sat down on his rock where he looked out over the banks of the river when he suddenly saw an amazing sight. A flight of arrows came down and all of them stuck one into the other and created a dam across the Ganga made of the arrows from some unknown archer. Shantanu looked with amazement. The Ganga had stopped. The king was so surprised he ran over to see this dam when suddenly Ganga appeared. He took a long look at her and said, "My beautiful wife, you left me, and now you have come again. What is this amazing thing? Who is it that can stop the flow of your waters?" Ganga said, "Look over there. That is your son, Devavrat. This is an example of the knowledge he has attained. He has studied politics with Brihaspati, the guru of the gods. He has studied weaponry with Purana. He has studied all the great branches of wisdom from the greatest teachers available. And now I am giving you a son fit to follow in your footsteps." Ganga called her son Devavrat, and Devavrat came. "Yes, mother?" "My son, please bow down to your father." Shantanu grabbed his son, hugged and kissed him. Devavrat fell to his father's feet and made pranam. Ganga said, "Now my duty is complete. I am going to leave you both. I won't come to you anymore, Shantanu. Only when my son is deeply in need will I come to him." With those words, Ganga entered into the river and disappeared from sight. Shantanu was filled with joy to have his son, a companion, an heir to the throne. Devavrat was in every way the most beautiful son he could imagine. He was a fine warrior, a sportsman, a craftsman. He was a great, benevolent being, and everybody loved him. To the delight of all, Shantanu anointed Devavrat the heir to the throne, the crown prince, the next king of Hastinapur. Devavrat becomes Bhishma. Even though Shantanu had his son and the people had a crown prince, Shantanu's heart was not yet satisfied. There was still an empty place that longed to be filled. One day, Shantanu went with his son Devavrat and their most trusted advisors and friends to hunt. Shantanu went off in pursuit of some precious trophy by himself. He followed that game until he came to the bank of the Jamuna River, where he saw Satyavati sitting by her boat. Satyavati had received the blessing from Parasa that she would have the most wonderful scent and everlasting beauty. Satyavati, Matsyagandha, the daughter of the fisherman, was sitting by the boat waiting to ferry passengers across the river. She was exuding her beautiful fragrance, and her beauty was radiant. Shantanu went to Satyavati and asked, "What are you doing here?" And Satyavati said, "I'm waiting for a passenger to ferry across the river." Shantanu said, "Would you ferry me across the river?" "Gladly, O king," she replied. Satyavati ferried Shantanu across the river, but the king could not take his eyes off of her for the entire journey. When they reached the other side, the king said, "I have made a mistake. Please take me back to the other side. I will pay you double the fare." As Satyavati paddled the boat, the king could see nothing but the beauty of this lovely young lady. Shantanu said to her, "I have come here to this forest for hunting, but it seems as though someone has hunted me. I have become the target. Now there is only one person who can save the king of Hastinapur, and that person is you. Satyavati, will you become my wife?" And Satyavati said, "I would be honored to be your wife, O king, but you must take permission from my father, Dasraj." Shantanu agreed. "Yes, without hesitation, I will go to your father and ask for permission to marry you." Shantanu immediately went to Dasraj and told him, "Dasraj, I've fallen in love with Satyavati. I wish to make her my wife." And Dasraj said, "What a wonderful opportunity for my daughter. But as father of the bride, I have one request. My daughter will marry you only if you will make her child the next king." Shantanu said, "That is impossible. I have already anointed Devavrat. He is the most perfect person to be the king. He has already been installed as the heir to the throne. How can I steal the kingdom away from my own son, who is qualified in every way to give it to the unborn son of your daughter? I can't do such an injustice and still call myself the king." Dasraj said, "Well, then you can't marry my daughter." Shantanu got angry and stormed out of the house and returned to his encampment. His heart was sad. Every day he would go down to the bank of the Jamuna and look at Satyavati from a distance, hiding behind a tree. Every evening, well after dark, he came home to the encampment of the hunting party. His heart was heavy. Devavrat went to him and said, "Father, what is the problem? Is it some problem with the kingdom? If it is, then as the crown prince of the kingdom, I should be informed. Please share your troubles with me. Or is it a personal problem? Then as your son, you should share your burden with me. Please, Father, trust in me, confide in me, unburden your heart, and let's see if we can't find a solution." And the king said, "My son, a man cannot share everything. Neither can the king share everything, nor can a father share everything." And Devavrat said, "Well, then let's go home to Hastinapur. We have important matters to take care of there. We have hunted enough and spent enough time in the forest. Let's go back to Hastinapur." The king Shantanu said, "No, son, not now, just a few more days." Every day, Shantanu went down to the bank of the Jamuna River and he watched Satyavati as she did her work, rowing people across the river and sitting on the bank waiting for another passenger. The king came back to the encampment late one night and retired to his tent. Devavrat, the king's son, called the chariot driver and said, "Charioteer, where do you take my father every day?" The charioteer said, "That's a private matter between your father and me. I cannot betray his confidence." Devavrat said, "Charioteer, the king of our country is beset with sadness and a heavy burden. I am the crown prince and also his son. I must know what is the cause of his burden. What can I do to relieve my father of his sadness? Please, you must tell me where you take my father every day." "To the bank of the Jamuna River." "Why do you take my father to the bank of the Jamuna River? What does he do there?" "He looks at Satyavati." "The whole day he looks at Satyavati?" "Did he ever talk to Satyavati?" "Yes, he did." "Well, what did he say?" "He said, 'I would like to marry you.'" Devavrat again inquired, "What did she say?" "She said, 'I too would like to marry you, but you must get permission from my father.'" Then Devavrat inquired, "Did he ever meet her father?" "What did the father say?" "Yes," said the charioteer, "the father said, 'You can't marry my daughter unless her son becomes the next king of Hastinapur.'" Then your father got angry and left, and every day he goes to the bank of the Jamuna and looks at her. Devavrat said, "Take me to Dashraj. I want to meet Satyavati's father." In the middle of the night, he rode to Dasraj's house. When Dasraj woke up in the night to see Devavrat, the king's son, he was most surprised. "What are you doing here?" he inquired. "It is most surprising hour to see the king's son at my home." "Dasraj, I have come to bring Satyavati to my father." "Oh, Crown Prince, you must know of my desire. I told your father that I cannot give my daughter to him unless her son would be made the king of Hastinapur. Your father said that he could not grant that wish, so then I could not give him my daughter as his wife." And Devavrat said, "The king was right in telling you that he could not grant that wish because he already gave up that privilege. A king can only bestow his kingdom once. He would be dishonest to take the kingdom away from the person he gave it to in order to give it to another. He gave that promise to me, so he couldn't give that promise again to you, Dashraj. I have the promise. The promise is now with me. And I give you the promise that the son of Satyavati will become the next king of Hastinapur. I will not accept the throne if it means the happiness of my father. In all our histories, how many times we have found a father making a sacrifice for the happiness of a son. Now, history will find an example of a son making a sacrifice for the happiness of his father. I will not accept the throne. I give my right to the throne to the son of Satyavati." Dashraj said, "What a noble son you are to think so highly for the happiness of your father that you are willing to sacrifice your kingdom. But what if your children don't agree? What if your children raise the issue of a claim to the throne and with an army come to do battle with Satyavati's son? Devavrat said, "You are absolutely right, Dasraj. I have no capacity to promise on behalf of my unborn children, but I do have the capacity to promise to never have children. So I, Devavrat, the son of Shantanu, hereby promise that I will have no children, I will never marry, I will never have any physical relationship with a woman." When that promise was given, the whole earth shook. The gods showered flowers upon him. Dasaraj bowed to Devavrat and gave to him the beautiful Satyavati. Satyavati got into the chariot with Devavrat, and together they returned to the king's camp. It was almost morning when they arrived. Shantanu was very anxious, wondering where his son had gone in the middle of the night. When Devavrat returned in the early morning along with Satyavati, Satyavati explained the entire circumstance of how Devavrat gave the promise that allowed her father to grant the permission to marry. Shantanu blessed Devavrat and said, "Devavrat, you have taken such a strong vow. You are Bhishma, the strong, the one of such terrific strength and noble character. I give you the blessing of Ichamrityu. You will only leave your body when you desire. You will be invincible to all beings. Never before was there a man so strong and steadfast in his vow, seeking only the happiness and delight of his father. Your name, Bhishma, will be eternal. You will be the strongest supporter of Dharma." Again, Bhishma promised, "Father, your son through Satyavati will continue your lineage. And no matter who sits on the throne of Hastinapur, I will always protect the king of this kingdom. This is my vow to you." And that's how Devavrat became Bhishma. And in the entire anthology of Sanatana Dharma, there are only two Bal Brahmacharis. There is Bhishma and there's Hanuman. And all the others were married. All the gods had a goddess, and all the rishis had a rishi patni, and all the Brahmins had families of their own. Bhishma and Hanuman were the two who observed celibacy throughout their lives. The marriage of Vicitravirya and the curse of Bhishma. Even with his beautiful wife Satyavati, Shantanu couldn't take any pleasure. Always, somewhere in his heart, both he and his wife felt their union came about as a result of such a tremendous sacrifice by their son. Bhishma was such a noble character who gave up so much for the happiness of his father, and yet the parents always dwelt in sadness. Despite this sadness, Satyavati and Shantanu had two sons. The first was Chitrangad. The second was Vicitravirya. Even though he had two sons, Shantanu still wasn't happy. When Chitrangad was a young man, he was crowned the Prince Regent. Soon after this coronation, Shantanu died. Bhishma became the administrator of the kingdom and guarded the throne, while Chitrangad and Vicitravirya grew up to be strong young men and heroic warriors. One day, Chitrangad, the king of Hastinapur, went hunting in the forest. During the hunt, he was attacked by a lion and he died right there on the spot. Then Vicitravirya became the king of Hastinapur. The king of Kashi, which is now called Benares, had 3 beautiful daughters, Ambe, Ambike, and Ambalike. When the time came for their marriage, he called for the Swayamvara where the girls would choose their husbands. He invited all the kings of India, princes and noblemen, who all came to Kashi to participate in the festivities in which the 3 maidens would choose their husbands. But because of an old defeat that the ancestors of Kashi had suffered at the hands of the kings of Hastinapur, the king of Kashi decided to insult the kingdom of Hastinapur by not inviting the king Vicitravirya. Bhishma became angry at this insult and by himself immediately proceeded to Kashi. When Bhishma arrived at the Swayamvara hall, the 3 girls were standing with the wedding garlands in their hands, waiting to choose their husbands. Bhishma entered into the hall in great anger, his bow drawn with an arrow, and said, "King of Kashi, you have chosen to insult Hastinapur by not inviting our king to be a part of this ceremony. And therefore, I am now taking all 3 of these girls to be the wives of the king of Hastinapur." All the kings assembled in the room drew their sword, and Bhishma let his arrows fly, which pierced through all the crowns of those kings and put those crowns at the feet of the king of Kashi. Thereafter, all those defeated kings lowered their heads. Bhishma said, "If anyone likes to fight, let them avail the opportunity right now. Otherwise, I'm taking these 3 girls with me." Their father gave the order, and the 3 girls got into Bhishma's chariot and were carried off to Hastinapur. When they arrived at Hastinapur, Satyavati was so pleased to see the 3 girls coming, young brides for her son. When they were introduced to Mother Satyavati, Ambe said, "Queen Mother, before Bhishma stole us away from the wedding ceremony, I had already fallen in love with Shalya. I had planned to give my wedding garland to him. But Bhishma came at the point of an arrow and stopped me from exercising my right as a princess in choosing my own husband. And therefore, if you will send me to the husband I have chosen, I will be very grateful." Satyavati said, "Of course, my dear. Bhishma will make all the arrangements to send you to Salbya immediately and with great honor." Then they sent a contingent of the army as an escort to take Ambe to Salbya Raj so she could marry the man of her choice. Meanwhile, Vicitravirya married the 2 sisters Ambike and Ambalike. When Ambe reached to Salbya Raj's kingdom, she met with the king Salbya, who said, "My dear, I wanted to marry you." And Salbya said, "This is a great insult. You were stolen away from me at the point of an arrow. I wasn't able to defend you then. How can you come back to me now as a gift from Bhishma? How can I accept you? I'm sorry, I cannot. My dharma as a warrior king does not allow me to accept you as a gift from the man who had stolen you away from me by force of arms. You had better go back to Hastinapur." Ambe became very angry. She went back to the court of Vicitravirya in Hastinapur and said, Queen Mother, I want justice. Bhishma has ruined my life. He stole me away from the wedding ceremony when I had the wedding garland in my hand. I had already chosen the man to whom I was going to bestow my life. And now because of Bhishma, that man will not accept me. Now, shall I spend the rest of my life as an unwed lady? I want to be married. King, order Bhishma to marry me. He is the one who has ruined my life, and only if he marries me can it be restored to my satisfaction. Bhishma stood up and said, that's quite impossible. I have taken a promise that I will never marry. Coward! You stole me away from my wedding ceremony when I was holding the wedding garland in my hand, and now you are relying on that old promise to excuse your misbehavior? My lover wouldn't accept me because you stole me away from him. Now, Bhishma, if you don't marry me, I promise I am going to become the cause of your death. Thus speaking, she stormed out of the palace and went into the forest to perform tapasya. Satyavati calls Veda Vyasa. In the palace, Vicitravirya was very happy with his two queens, Ambike and Ambalike. The three of them had such a beautiful relationship, each one paying honor and respect to the others. One morning, as Vicitravirya was getting dressed to come to the hall of the audience, he began to cough. And he coughed again, and suddenly he fell down and died. There was much mourning and sorrow in Hastinapur. The king was dead, and there was no heir to the throne. Satyavati called Bhishma. Bhishma, you must renounce your promise and take the throne. How can I renounce my promise, mother? A vow given to the gods is a sacred pact. I cannot renounce my promise. Then at least renounce your vow of celibacy and implant a seed within the two wives of Vicitravirya, Ambike and Ambalike, so we will have a king. Bhishma said, Mother, I'm sorry, I cannot renounce my vow. Then Satyavati said, Bhishma, please go to the forest and find my son Veda Vyasa. Bring him here to me. Tell him his mother needs him. Bhishma went to the forest where he found the Muni Veda Vyasa sitting in an asana on the banks of the Saraswati River. Veda Vyasa said, blessings to you, Bhishma. I know the reason for your coming. Bhishma said, Satyavati is calling you. Veda Vyasa said, I know my mother has need for me now. I will go with you. You are not her son, so there is no need for you to obey her order, but I cannot forsake the call of my mother. Veda Vyasa came with Bhishma to the palace of Hastinapur. Mate, mother, I bow to you, namaste. How are you? Satyavati said, I am in terrible difficulties. Both of my sons have died. Bhishma has promised never to accept the throne and not to have any children. I need an heir to the throne. You are part of my family, and I want you to have children by the wives of Vicitravirya and produce an heir to the throne. Vyasa said, Mother, I have been doing sadhana in the forest, and I'm not prepared to do this act right now. Give me 1 year's time, and I will come and help you. And Satyavati said, I cannot wait 1 year. I need an heir as soon as possible. Do it right now. Vyasa said, Mother, please understand the result of this. And Satyavati replied, whatever God wills to be will be, but I cannot wait. That night, Vyasa went to his room and Ambike was sent to sleep with him. She became startled with fright when she saw that old man with long matted hair, a long beard, thick wrinkled skin, wearing the markings and forest dress of a hermit. She closed her eyes, cringed, and began to shake. In the morning, Satyavati asked Vyasa, "How did it go?" "Mother," she closed her eyes. "She couldn't bear to see me. Her child will be born blind." Satyavati said, "Oh, this is terrible. I need a son who is capable of becoming the king. I can't have a blind king. I will send the other girl, Ambalike." The next night, Ambalike came to visit Vyasa. As she entered into the room, she saw that old hermit with long matted hair and a beard, and she became startled with fright and turned pure white with paleness. In the morning, Satyavati came to Vyasa and asked him, "How did it go?" Vyasa said, "Mother, just what I feared. When Ambalike saw my old tattered form, she turned pale white with fear, and as a result, her son will be an albino. He will be born pure white." Satyavati said, "This is terrible. I need a son who is suitable to become the king. I will talk with the girls." When she talked to Ambike and Ambalike and ordered them to go back into the room again, neither of the girls could go back. They said, "I'm not going to do this deed. I don't care about the kingdom or the king. Let's send our maidservant." So they sent the maidservant. And she went to Vyasa and bowed down and was so kind to him. She served him without thought for herself. He blessed her and said, "Your son will be the most dharmic man of history. He will know all the rules of politics and understand all the philosophies and will be an example of wisdom throughout the ages." The 3 children were born. The first and oldest was Dhritarashtra. He was blind. The second was Pandu. He was pale. The third, the son of the maidservant, was Vidur. He was the wisest and most just and most noble of mankind. The 3 children, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidur, began to grow up under the tutelage of Bhishma. He taught them all he could about weaponry, statesmanship, politics, and dharma. They grew up to be fine, strong gentlemen. Dhritarashtra, the oldest, was blind. Pandu, pale in color, was very strong and heroic. Vidur was the wisest advisor there could be. When the 3 brothers came of age, Bhishma brought them before the queen mother Satyavati. Satyavati looked at her grandchildren who had grown up to become fine gentlemen. Bhishma said, "All right, mother, which one should be king?" And Satyavati said, "Dhritarashtra is oldest, but he is blind. How can he be the king?" Vidur said, "Mother, if I may give my advice, it's impossible to have a blind king. We need a defender and protector of our nation." Satyavati said, "Yes, Vidur, I agree with you. Pandu will be the king." Pandu was crowned the king of Hastinapur, and he began to reign in the most dharmic way. He cared for all his subjects like his own family. Pandu marries Kunti and Madri. Once there was a king by the name of Surasena. He was related to the king of Mathur, Ugrasena, and a descendant from the royal lineage established when King Shatrughan killed the evil Lavanasura. King Surasena had a beautiful daughter, the princess named Kunti. One day, Kunti's father called for her, Swayamvar, for her to choose her husband from among the kings of India. King Pandu went to watch the marriage ceremony, and the princess took the garland of victory, walked around the entire hall, and then chose Pandu. And Pandu married Kunti. Kunti had a very interesting story in her youth. One day, the great Rishi Durvasha came to visit her father. And Kunti performed all the seva for the Rishi herself. She fanned him when he went to sleep. She prepared his meals and served him. She rubbed his feet in the night. She sat at his feet and listened to all his wisdom. Durvasha Muni was very pleased and said, "Oh Kunti, I will give you a blessing. Choose for me a blessing." Kunti said, "Maharaj, I don't know what to ask for. Please, you are Trikaldashi. You know the past, present, and future. Please give me that blessing which will benefit me in the future." And Durvasha thought for a moment and said, "All right, Kunti, I'm going to give you a mantra. And by that mantra, you can call any god, any Deva, and he will come and bless you with a child." Kunti thought that was a very strange blessing to give. She took initiation in the mantra, and Durvasha left. That night, Kunti was sitting in a room thinking about what kind of a mantra she had received. She wondered if it was true, that if she called any Deva, he would give her a child. She could not understand how that would help her in her future. She doubted that it could be true. She sat up the whole night thinking about it, and in the morning, just as the sun was rising, she looked at the sun and said, "I have to see if this is true or not, and whether or not it really works." And she pronounced the mantra. Sure enough, Surya Deva, the sun god, came right into her room, and Surya said, "Oh Kunti, you have called me? That is a very powerful mantra." And Kunti said, "Oh yes, I'm sorry. I didn't want to disturb you. I just wanted to see if the mantra worked. You can go back now." And Surya, the sun, said, "No, it can't be that way. Once you call me by means of this mantra, I would be remiss if I did not give you a child. So here's a child." And Surya gave Kunti the most beautiful, strong, and heroic-looking son who was wearing a suit of armor and earrings that came from the sun. And then Surya left. Kunti looked at the child and contemplated what she would do. Her whole family would be angry with her, and no one would believe where she got the child. She took the child and said, "Oh child, please forgive me. I know you have a destiny of great karma ahead of you." And she put the child in a basket and set it into the river. And the basket floated downstream. Vrat was the charioteer of the king. He found the basket. And the child was taken to the charioteer's house and raised as his own son. The charioteer's wife, whose name was Radha, had no other children, and she named the child Radhe. Radhe grew up in the house of the charioteer. But Kunti never told anyone the secret of her first and oldest son. After their marriage, Kunti returned with Pandu to Hastinapur. Then Pandu said to her, "My beloved wife, a king has many obligations. My first duty is to my people, and even before we enjoy the pleasures of our married life, I must protect the borders of our nation. So I'm going to certify that all of our borders are protected and safe, and I will return to enjoy our honeymoon just as soon as I can." Pandu marched off with his army and conquered all of India. He made all the kings of India subservient to the throne of Hastinapur. When he came to the kingdom of Madras, the crown prince came out to meet him and said, "O king, I hope you accept our friendship." And Pandu was very happy and said, "Certainly I accept your friendship." Then the crown prince said, "Well, then you must accept a token of our friendship." And Pandu said, "I will gladly accept whatever gift you wish to give me." And the crown prince ordered charioteer. The charioteer dismounted from the chariot and came to where the prince was standing. "I am giving you to the king of Hastinapur." "King Pandu, this is my charioteer, my dear sister, Madri." Pandu looked at the beautiful young lady that was driving the chariot. He was so surprised, he said, "I would love to take your sister with me, but I'm already married." And Madri said, "Well then, take me to the queen Kunti. I have already been given. Let's see if Kunti will accept me or not." And Pandu replied, "Okay, get in my chariot." And Crown Prince, please excuse us as we take your leave. We shall return to Hastinapur. And then Pandu and Madri returned to Hastinapur. When Kunti heard that Pandu had returned, she was filled with joy. And when she saw the beautiful wife that he brought back with him, she was filled with surprise. But Madri came to Kunti and bowed down and said, "My elder sister, please bless me that we can all live together in peace and harmony." And Kunti was delighted to accept her into the family. So Pandu was married to both Kunti and Madri, and he and his two wives lived together in joyous harmony. The Curse of Pandu. Some days after Pandu's return to Hastinapur, Satyavati said, "My son, it's time you take some rest. Pandu, you have only been working and fighting since the day you became king. Why don't you take your two wives to our forest retreat? We have a little house there where you can have some time for yourselves." Pandu said, "That's a wonderful idea. Now my kingdom is safe and well protected. Let me enjoy some private time alone with my family." Before going to the forest retreat, Pandu came to his elder brother Dhritarashtra and said, "Dhritarashtra, I don't want to leave my kingdom unprotected. Please, in my absence, I want you to wear the crown. You will be the king in my place." Dhritarashtra was so pleased to have the crown on his head. As soon as Pandu left, Dhritarashtra thought of ways he could keep that crown. The crown should have been his. It would have been his if he had not been born blind. He was the oldest. He wondered why his karma treated him in this way, and he desired to keep the crown in whatever way he could. Pandu went to take rest with his two wives, and there in the forest they met the Rishi Kindle. Many days were passed listening to the wisdom of Dharma from the mouth of the Rishi. After many days of learning wonderful wisdom and enjoying the great rest in the most harmonious way with his wives, a lion came near the hermitage where they were residing. Madri said, "My husband, look at that lion over there." Pandu immediately grabbed his bow and arrows and said, "Today I shall bring you back a trophy." And he ran off into the forest. The lion led him on a great chase. Pandu ran close behind, but the lion hid himself in the thickest part of the brush. Then Pandu listened. There was a rustling in the leaves. Pandu drew back his bow and let his arrow fly. Suddenly he heard the sound of a human being crying in pain. Pandu wondered what the sound was. He ran through the forest to where the arrow had landed, and there he found that the arrow had pierced through the hearts of both the Rishi Kindle and his wife. When the dying rishi saw Pandu, he said, "What is this? The king is supposed to protect his subjects, and here I am, a harmless hermit in the forest. This was my only time alone with my wife, and now I have been pierced by an arrow that was supposed to be protecting the subjects of Hastinapur." The king said, "Forgive me, Rishi. I heard the sound, and thinking it was a lion, I let the arrow fly to the sound." The Rishi said, "You didn't look, and you shot the arrow, and you have killed both me and my wife. I curse you. Whenever you come to touch your wife, or if you ever hold a woman in close embrace, you will die just as I am dying now." Then the Rishi and his wife left their bodies. Pandu stared in disbelief and shock. He returned to the hermitage and took his wives back to Hastinapur. Immediately he called an assembly of all the wise and learned beings of the kingdom. Bhishma, Dhritarashtra, Vidur assembled along with all the counselors of the court of Hastinapur. Pandu said, "Wise counselors of Hastinapur, it was an accident, but the arrow of the king has killed the rishi and his wife. And now I must perform some penance to atone for this horrible sin of killing a Brahmin. I'm going to the forest to practice tapasya. Dhritarashtra, my older brother, you are currently the king. You remain the king. I am going to do sadhana in the forest." Everyone was very sad to see Pandu, Kunti, and Madri walk into the forest in bare feet. For some years they practiced tapasya, strong spiritual disciplines of yoga and meditation. One day, Pandu had a dream. In the dream, all of the rishis were walking up to heaven. Pandu too wanted to walk with them into heaven, but they said, "Where are you going? You can't go to heaven because you haven't paid your debt to the earth. Where are your children that will perform funeral oblations for you? You have no child. You have not nourished the next generation in a way to make the earth any better. How can you go to heaven?" Pandu was very disturbed by this dream. When he woke up, he asked his wives, "What shall I do? I have no son. I can't go to heaven no matter how much tapasya I perform." Kunti said, "My lord and husband, when I was a child, I served Durvasha Muni. He gave me a mantra by which I can have a son by any god that I choose." Pandu was so happy and said, "Use the mantra. Do tapasya. Bring a son for me." Kunti said, "Who shall I call?" Pandu replied with great excitement, "Call Dharma. Ask him to be the father of our first son." Kunti sat in the forest and started to perform recitation of the mantra. Dharma came and gave her a son, and Pandu was so happy. Pandu said, "Now, Kunti, call Pavan, the wind." Kunti sat again and called the wind. The wind came and gave her a son. Then Pandu said, "Call Indra." And Kunti sat again and called Indra. Indra came and gave her a son. Then Kunti taught the mantra to Madri. Madri called the Ashwin twins, and she gave birth to twin sons. And the first son born of Dharma was named Yudhishthir. The second one born of the wind was called Bhim. The third from Indra was Arjun. The fourth was Nakul, and the fifth was Shahadev. Meanwhile, the blind king Dhritarashtra married Gandhari, who bound her eyes with a cloth so that she would share her husband's darkness. Together they had 100 sons. The eldest was named Duryodhana, the defender of evil. The 5 sons of Pandu grew up in the forest, learning wisdom at the feet of the rishis. One day, Pandu was sitting under a tree by a stream meditating when Madri came along to take her bath and draw water. She looked so beautiful. She took her bath and was all wet and fresh. And when she came back from the waterfall after drawing water, Pandu came to embrace her. Immediately he fell down and died. Madri and Kunti were very sad that their husband lay dead in the forest. The rishis came to that place and performed the funeral rites, whereupon Madri climbed upon the funeral pyre, making herself a sati, a woman who leaves her mortal body to accompany her husband. Let's see if there are any questions, please.
I have a question, Swamiji.
Yes.
We have the story of Bhishma, who renounced his kingdom, or the title to the kingdom, and also a life of a householder. We also have the example of King Janaka, who lived the life of a householder. Which of these 2 examples is the greater example for us to follow?
Both are great. Both are great. Janak made his sacrifice by administering the kingdom on behalf of all of the subjects. They were his family. So that was his renunciation. He protected and defended and established justice and equality in his kingdom. Bhishma renounced both his title to the king, and he still maintained the authority of the kingdom. He maintained the responsibility of the kingdom, and he gave up his right to his celibacy, took the vow of celibacy. So both were great sacrifices. Both are to be admired and implemented, inculcated into our own lives in any way we can sacrifice. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Do we have any other questions? No, you can continue now.
Swamiji, Rolf from Mountain View.
Namaste, Rolf.
He's asking, what austerities did King Janaka do to maintain his freedom from attachment?
Well, the most part, of course, Janak was a great worshipper of Shiva, and he performed Shiva Puja every day. He also worshipped the Divine Mother regularly. So in performing the rites and ceremonies of the worship, this is a tapasya, because in puja, in worship, in padoti, you have the amalgamation, the union, the culmination of all the branches of yoga. You have asana, pranayama, mudras, kriyas, mantras, the study of Sanskrit, all put together. So puja, when they say that the king performed puja, this is an austerity. Because in puja, we sit in one asana, we perform pranayama, we do deep meditation, we learn the mantras, we make offerings, and we weave all of these various practices into one contiguous offering of sadhana. And this is called tapasya. There are 7 aspects of Siddhantacharya, the behavior, the achara, in accordance with the Siddhanta, with the scriptures. And these 7 are puja, worship, pat, recitation of the scriptures, homa, the sacred fire ceremony, sangeet, singing, nrit, dancing for God. Pravachan, what we're doing right now, is discussing the meaning and application of the scriptures and how we apply them to our own circumstances in our environment, in our particular circumstances. And the 7th is arpanam, offering, serving, giving to others. Now, these are the tapasya. Janak as the king, he performed the puja, he did the homa, he recited the scriptures, he did sing bhajans, he did the arti, which is a dance and celebration of the goddesses and gods. He studied the scriptures, he listened to the pravachan, and he served and offered to his kingdom by administering with justice and equality. So he did them all.
A question from Nanda from San Jose.
Namaste, Nandama.
Namaste, Swamiji. The different stories of Ganga seem to show how fickle she is. From the story of Krishna and Radha, then Shiva, then Shantanu, why is she regarded as the great purifier?
Well, because she's a flowing stream of purity. No one can stop her stream except Bhishma. He shot the arrows, made a dam. But she is a flowing stream of purity. So wherever she goes, she brings purity. And she brought purity, of course, when she married Sagar. She washed the ashes of his sons, his 60,000 sons who had died by the Rishi's curse. She washed them all into the sea. She married with Shiva. She married with Narayan. She married with Brahma. It seems a girl who gets around. She's a flowing stream of purity, and everywhere she goes, every touch of her water brings purity and clarity and purifies. So that's why she is a little bit promiscuous. A lot of us are impure and need her waters. In fact, I offer them every morning in puja. I hope you do too.
Swamiji, Ananda is asking, yesterday we had discussed the 4 stages of life and the importance of each. Why then did Hanuman and Bhishma not want to go to the next stage? Would it not in a way stop their spiritual progress?
Bhishma was giving up all of his spiritual merits for the happiness of his father. I don't care about myself. I'm dedicating my life to the happiness of my father, the king. So he wasn't concerned with his own salvation. He was only concerned with raising his father to a greater degree of sanctity, a greater degree of joy and happiness. And Hanuman, from his birth, Hanuman was the incarnation of Shiva, and Shiva had received the boon that he would be unaffected by Mohini. He would not surrender to Maya, and Hanuman was the representative of Shiva in the Treta Yuga. So therefore, these two individuals, Hanuman in the Treta Yuga and Bhishma in the Kali Yuga, in Dwapara Yuga, these two stand out as examples of celibacy. Otherwise, all the rishis are married. All the devas are married. All the gods and goddesses. That's where we came from.
Question from Nilima Didi from New Delhi.
Namaste, Nilima.
She's asking, did not Satyavati behave irresponsibly in inviting Vyas Muni? Bhishma could have run the kingdom. How could Pandu and Dhritarashtra be called princes?
The Pandavas, Pandu's children were the princes by the union of Satyavati and the wives of Vicitravirya. Now, she didn't. Her irresponsibility was not in not waiting for 1 year, as Veda Vyasa instructed her to. But she was very much in a hurry to find a solution to the problem. So she thought that her generation and the sons of Vicitravirya, they would unite, and that would bring a legitimate heir to the throne. Bhishma was not irresponsible, and Satyavati's only fault was in not waiting and becoming impatient, but she didn't have an answer to all the inquiries from all the other noble people. She couldn't answer them. Everyone was saying, who's going to be the king? And she couldn't say to them, wait, we'll find a solution. I've got something in my back pocket. I've got another king for you. I've got another opportunity to produce the king. But she didn't do that. She called Veda Vyasa and said, do it now. So that was her irresponsibility, or the one mistake that she made. And give our love to all our friends and family in Delhi.
Kumari from Vallejo has a question. We learn in these stories the dharmic life that was lived by royalty and the common people. What can we learn from Dasaraja's order to the king that he must give the kingship to the son of his daughter should the king marry her? Was this a dharmic act? Did it not contribute to the cause of the Kurukshetra war?
Yes, but remember that Satyavati was told that her Parashar told her that her son would become the king. And that was Parasar's boon to Satyavati. Now, Dasraj didn't know that, but that was the destiny. That was destined to happen. Parasar, when he gave the boons to Matsya Ganga to become Satyavati, he said,